Happy Thursday. It's the third attempt at this. I think we got it this time. Forgive me. I'm back. I'm not sure if you missed it, but I had some technical difficulties. I'm a little bit late, but I'm here now, and we're going to roll. So welcome to my Thursday live, primarily focused on the Waiting Works community. If you're not yet a member of the Facebook group, you can go over and join it. You can just go to reallovewaits.com. And you can go join a 4,000 member army of people that are waiting for God's best, waiting for love before sex. Does that make sense? Love before sex, not sex before love, but love before sex. So do me a favor, everybody, while you're out there, let me know that you're here. Say hi. Drop a comment. Let me know that you were here, even if you're watching the replay. And if it's your first time watching one of these, make sure that you leave what city you're in and your zip code. And what we're doing is we're connecting our members with other people in their area, and they are starting to do life together. We have about 12 to 15 cities right now that people are out socializing, they're serving together. They're doing all kinds of stuff. They're worshiping together if they're Christians. So it's really cool, and it is the dream. It was always the vision, was to connect like-minded people and end loneliness, and that's how we're doing it. We have a real good step-by-step system by which we take these clusters of people. Start off as kind of a small cluster. Even if you look at something like Oklahoma City, that was just a couple people reached out, and through our process, they've become our biggest chapter in about a year's time. So would love to connect you with some other people in your area. We have about almost 100 cities with 3 or more members in that city that we've been in touch with, and we connect you. So drop your city, the closest city within, I would say, like 30 minutes of you, up to 50 really. But if you're not within 30 minutes of a bigger city, just put the biggest city. Yeah, just put your zip code, because we actually have a formula by which we can run a report and find out who's close to you and connect you with them. So again, drop me a comment. If you're watching here live, say hi. Hey, Cindy Spargo, how are you? Scott Finley, what's up? I was just chatting with you on Messenger. Liesel Weber, how are you? Jess Boja, we're not connecting you with anybody, buddy. All right, so tonight I want to talk about vision. If I had to narrow it down to the single most important thing, that I think that got me here, that kept me from quitting, kept me from falling back into certain sins, really pushed me through a lot of the hard times. It was my vision. It was because it was so clear, and I thought about it so much that for me to quit, it would have been something I couldn't have lived with. I couldn't have lived with the wondering, what if I wouldn't have quit? What if I would have just kept going a little longer? And that's what I want to talk to you all about today, because I think there's a lot of people out there that don't know their purpose. They don't know what they're here for, and they just kind of drift through life and they don't go anywhere. And I want to talk a little bit about that and some of the ways that I was able to get really clear on mine. So before I do that, I want to actually drop a comment here. Let me just go ahead and do that. Thank you for those comments. I'll see them coming through. Mark Lowry, what's up? Vanessa Wilson, hi. Awesome. I'm going to pin this. I'm going to pin a comment to the top because I'm offering free 15-minute consultation calls for a little while. I don't know how long I'm going to do it, but I'm doing it now. So after we do this, if anybody has a question and they want to book a call with me, then they'll be able to. So let me just do that on all the platforms. I think we're on YouTube right now, and we're also on Facebook. And there we are. Great. I think we're on YouTube. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Scott the Bot, 261M B-Hop. It's like third time you launched live stream. Oh, yes, that's right, Scott. I was having some technical difficulties. I'll get it worked out. We're going to take this whole thing to a new level. It's just it's a process. All right. Let me just check one more place. So thank you for the comments. Thank you for putting your city in, or your zip codes. I did see somebody did that. Who was that? Misty Karakash, how are you? All right, great. Perfect. Good. All right, let's get to it. So, yeah, so basically, in my last live, I talked a little bit about purpose before person. I think a lot of people get that out of order. They find people. None of us want to wait. Human nature is we don't want to wait, and people. What ends up happening is they end up drifting into a relationship with someone, probably that they were physically active with, and before even really knowing their purpose. And I really believe strongly in the power of sex transmutation, that when you pump the brakes in that area for a little while, you're able to harness that sexual energy and use it to build a business or get an idea off the ground. Now, it's not just that, but it is that. It does enable you to give you the energy to do it, but also it gives you the clarity. Because for me, when I was like, I knew I wasn't going to go out and get laid. I wasn't going to go out and just sleep with the girl. So my focus narrowed to the point that I really was able to figure out what I wanted in life outside of that, outside of sex. And I think that is a lot of times where people get hung up, because your sexual energy is the strongest form of all human energy. That's what Napoleon Hill said in Think and Grow Rich. So when you're not focused on maybe abstaining, it's real easy to get distracted and split your energy into different places. And I want to make one thing clear before we get into this, because there's a difference in your purpose and your career. You know what I'm saying? Like if what you're doing is earning money for only, then it's not your purpose. Your purpose is about other people. Your purpose is about your contribution to the world. It's not about you. God gave you that to give to other people. And I think that's where a lot of people don't find it, because they have gifts and talents, but they don't think about how they're going to benefit other people with no thought of themselves in return. Does that make sense? Because, like, for example, when I was promoting nightclubs, I was good at it. I was always a good promoter. I was always good at pulling people together, and I used it to make a lot of money and make myself very popular. But I never really, until I started thinking about using those gifts not to make money, but to help people that were bored and lonely, that were Christians, basically. That's really how it started. I was just dying from loneliness as a Christian, and I thought, man, there's got to be other people that are feeling this way. I could fix this problem. There was absolutely no money in it at all. If anything, it cost me a lot of money to get to this point, and I've still never been paid all these years later. But I've made that's my purpose, is because now I'm helping other people overcome their loneliness. Now, will it lead to money? It possibly could in the future. You got to play the long game with your purpose. But I think if you're just using it to make money, then that isn't your purpose. That's just your job. Okay, so I just want to make that clear before we get into this. And actually, you know what? Before we start the conversation, one thing I wanted to do is I want this to be a little bit low pressure. Low key. I had a couple questions over the last few weeks, 4 different questions that I wasn't able to get to. I don't know if they asked them in the replays, or I think 2 of them were on a different post. And I want to make sure that we're addressing people's questions. So look, if you want to drop a couple questions in the comments, go for it. I don't know that I'll get to them tonight. I'll try. But if I don't, then what I'll do is I'll copy and paste them to my notes for next week, and I'll try to answer them then. So even if you're watching the replay and you got a question about anything I say or anything else for that matter, you can book a free consultation call with me. The link is in the comments, or you can just go ahead and post your question here. All right, let's go ahead and answer these. There's 4 questions that I want to tackle right now before we get into the conversation. First is from Tiffany Denise, and she says, do men fall in love before or after the marriage? Great question. Okay, I think men should fall in love before the marriage, but what I think ends up happening, first off, let me say this. I think love is an overused term. I don't think most of the people that are in relationships right now in the world and in America especially are in love. I don't. I think they're in relationships of convenience, because they got physical and then they got a soul tie and then they drifted into the relationship with someone that they never really vetted. They didn't ask themselves the hard questions, and now they just kind of like, it ain't that bad, but it ain't that great either. And they got their finances are combined. Maybe they have a joint bank account and they got kids, and it's it's really hard to get out of that. Soul ties are extremely hard to break. I have friends. Oh, hold on one second. Lost the lights. All right. I have friends, many friends, that are in relationships that I know that aren't happy. And they talk to me and they're just like, I'm like, are you still with such and such? And they're like, yeah. And they're just stuck. Soul ties are very hard to break. First off, you have to even know what they are. You have to be aware that you're in something that's a little bit outside of your control. And then you have to be very intentional about breaking them. So most people can't do it because what happens is you break up and then you start to drift off, or they start to drift off, and that soul chain jerks you. And next thing you know, you're like, you might not have even wanted them, but now if you hadn't heard from them in a couple weeks, you're calling and texting them to see, what's going on with them. And if they start moving on, you're going to try to reel them in, even if you don't want them. I've seen this happen many, many times. So I would say love is rare. It's a lot rarer than people think. I think men should fall in love before marriage, before getting physical, and then consummate the marriage on their wedding night, because that is, you know that a divorce is going to be painful, so you really think real hard about choosing that one. The thing is this is what I think people have to understand, is like, for a man, it's a big decision to choose one woman that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. I'm doing it now. Like, this is partly why I've been single for so long, because it's a big decision. And I'm not just going to settle for somebody because it's hard or I'm lonely. Now, I think what happens in the world is that people, they don't want to think that far through. Like, if it wasn't for my relationship with God, I would do the same thing. I'm like, I don't know if this is going anywhere. I mean, she's pretty. We have a good time together. You have sex, and you're like, and next thing you know, you're in it. And you didn't really ask yourself, is this who you want most? You're just like, I don't know. It's who I wanted right then. And now you're in it. And you go through a life in a mediocre relationship with not the one that you wanted most, but just someone that happened to be around, and they filled a space when you were lonely. And that happens all the time. So I think 100% men should fall in love before marriage, because if you're that sure of a woman that you're going to go all in and you're going to sign that marriage contract in order to be with her and sleep with her, then there's probably a good chance that you're in love. And I think even biology supports that. So that's my answer. I think that answers your question. But I think a lot of men are in relationships of convenience with women that they had sex with early, and they may say that they're in love, and maybe there is some level of love there. I'm not saying that there's not, because I think that can grow. But I don't think it's that deep love, that notebook kind of love, that to me, I don't see a lot of that these days. And I think your best chance for finding it is to abstain, is to wait. I know it is, because I've done it the other way so many times and it never worked. And I've seen the evidence on this side of it, and the numbers support everything that I'm saying. So, in addition to the fact, it's personal experience. All right, let me keep going. So, next question. This is by Amanda Perry. And she asked, what happens when he falls into porn instead while both of you are planning to marry, and starts saying it's normal? It's a normal desire because they aren't having physical sex. How long can a man wait faithfully? How does this work? How pure is a righteous man? Not a perfect man, but a man made new in Christ. Lots of questions and curious. Okay, that's a lot of questions. So let's see if we can just get to the heart of the one that you're really asking. All right, what happens when a man falls into porn instead while you are planning to marry, and starts saying it's normal desire because they aren't having physical sex? Okay, so basically they're saying, because I can't have sex, I have to look at porn and masturbate. Okay. Where's the discipline, I guess? Where's the self-restraint? Because I don't think that's biblical at all. If anything, the Bible talks about abstaining from sex for couples for a period of time to devote themselves to prayer, right? So, we are supposed to master our own bodies. I mean, that's definitely a Christian principle. To answer your question, how long can a man wait faithfully? I mean, I haven't had sex for was it 18 of the last 23 years? There was a 5-year stint that I backslid, and it hasn't been easy. I still have the sexual desire. I have the appetite. I just haven't done it mostly. I mean, and there's times where I'll get weak, and I've masturbated. I've looked at porn. Like last New Year's Eve, I looked at porn. Got really, frustrated and angry at God, and it happens. But a man can wait faithfully. I guess it depends on how important it is to him. But if y'all are in love, why court forever? Like you could court for 6 months, a year, 2 years, maybe at the most, if you're sure, and then you get married, and then you have all the sex. So I don't understand the question really. I mean, if a man told you that and said, well, I'm started watching porn because well, you're not having sex with me, that's not a godly man. That's a man that needs to get himself surrender to God and maybe get some mentorship or some. I would have him talk to an older, more spiritually mature man and have him help him out in that area, because that's just a lame excuse. But a man can wait faithfully for a long time. I mean, I think I'm proof that if anyone can do it, if I can do it, anyone can do it. I mean, I was literally a sex addict before meeting the Lord, and then I'm in environments all the time with beautiful women, many of them who would sleep with me, and I've done it because I've determined myself to do it. I set my face like flint, and I just I have a clear vision, which is what we're talking about tonight. For me, taking a girl home will be a dream killer because of the platform that I've built around myself, or God's built around me and my story. So I guess the question is, how bad does he want it, And then why date forever would be the second part of that. All right, so what are your boundaries you would suggest with female friends? I used to be sick of being the nice guy that always gets friend zoned. Okay, the boundaries you suggest with female friends. That's from Conan DJE. Well, I mean, I guess the boundaries are going to be dependent on a lot of things, Conan. First off, the boundaries are going to be dependent on what are your intentions with this girl. It sounds like for example, I set boundaries for myself, knowing, number one, my weaknesses from my past. Number two, for the outcome that I didn't want to happen, you know what I mean, which was having sex. And then I reverse engine, I made the decisions based off of those things. Okay, so for me, I didn't hang out with women alone for years. I wouldn't even be I believe I was in the car with them, but I wouldn't be alone. Like I wouldn't have a girl over at my house watching television, for example. Now, I'm not in that place anymore. Actually, in Costa Rica last year, I had a girl in my hotel room with the door open, by the way. But it was because, I wanted to get to know her a little bit, and it was the only time we were going to be around each other. So you got to take it on a case-by-case basis. Boundaries, you should set your boundaries far enough back that if you do cross them, that you're not over the cliff. You know what I'm saying? Like I've said this before, like your boundary shouldn't be not to have sex, right? Because at that point, if you break your boundary, you're in sin. Okay, but your boundaries should be like for not to touch anywhere. Let's say you're dating somebody, and I heard this is a great boundary that I passed on before, is you can only touch places where clothes aren't covering. So if there's clothes covering, you can't touch that part of their body. I was like, that's a good boundary, So like obviously, if they're wearing shorts, you can't grab their butt, but you can hold their hand and you can maybe touch their arm or their neck or whatever, but you can't touch where there's clothes. And I was like, that's a good boundary because let's say you do cross it, you're not in sin. Okay, so. For you, though, you're saying what kind of boundaries should I have with my female friends because they're friend zoning you. Okay, so, I would say don't, if you were, let's say you like a girl, Conan, you like her and you want to maybe date her, don't do everything for her. Don't be the bitch boy, okay? Just doing everything, always available, because more than likely she's probably not going to respect you anyway. And a lot of times a girl like that will go off and date the bad boy. Not saying that that's right either, but don't bend over backwards and do everything for him because more than likely it's not going to get you the relationship anyway. And the main thing for you is to have some dignity and self-respect so that you can carry yourself in a way that a woman would want you, because that is what they want. They want a man that's confident. So if you're like running around doing everything for some girl and she's not giving you any play, stop. Don't do that. It's not going to get you the relationship anyway. You can be nice. And doesn't mean you can't do nice things for people. I'm just talking about always being available when your heart, your intention isn't even to do it for them, just to help. Your intention is to be hoping that they're going to like you, and that's not even pure motives. So, sorry, the light just went off again. So I would say, depending on what the outcome is, let me turn the lights back on. And the outcome that you want or don't want to happen will determine which boundaries you set. All right, here's a question, Jarrett Nelson. How do you apply the principles of Richard Cooper or Rollo Tomassi from a Christian ethic and worldview? For example, are you looking for a certain age range or other qualities? All right, I read this question and I didn't really think it through, but I'm just going to kind of answer it off the cuff. So I think Rich Cooper, and I don't know Rollo Tomassi's, I haven't, The Rational Male, I think is his book. I've heard about him, or, mixed reviews about him. I'm sure he has some good things to say. But like guys like Richard Cooper and Andrew Tate, they say, a lot of what they say is true. A lot of what they say about the state of the world and men being strong and female promiscuity and all these other things that they explain, they're spot on. It's their prescription for fixing those things, their remedy. Like Andrew Tate, go out and impregnate a bunch of women, or Richard Cooper, spinning plates and all these different things. Now they don't have a Christian worldview, so you have to take the meat and leave the bones with the things that they say. Okay, there is some meat there, but there's also some bones there. So like, if all men would behave like in a Christian fashion, which is having power but having restrained power, which Jordan Peterson talks about. I really like it. That to me is the ultimate show of strength, is when you can do something and you don't do it. Okay, if men were treating women in this way, to the point that they would like sacrifice and die, they're respecting their boundaries, they're not, trying to push sex early, they're treating them in the same way that they would want their mom, their sister, their daughter treated. Do you think the women would behave differently? Of course they would. You wouldn't have all these crazy women that have been trampled on, right? And I'm guilty of it too. So, and it's got to start somewhere. It's got to start with, even if it's just one of you out there, if it's one man standing up and saying, you know what, I hear what Rich says, but the answer isn't to the world burning. The answer isn't to bring marshmallows. That's what it's not. Like, that's what red pill guys do. Like, they see the world's obviously burning, but don't bring marshmallows and benefit off of it. No, stand up and do your part to, reverse the course that we're on. So I think, am I looking for a certain age range? Yeah, I would like to date a woman in childbearing age. Absolutely. Why? Because I haven't had any kids, and I might want to. I do think that some of the things that both of those guys say is true too, where women that, haven't, the women that maybe haven't dated as much and haven't been screwed over, they have less baggage, and that's kind of just fact. I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes women have gotten mad at me before in the past because I've said, don't let a man waste your best years. And they're like, what are you talking about, my best years? And I'm like, listen, I'm just being honest. You talk to the average woman that's in her 40s or 50s about the options that are out there for finding a good man to date and marry. They're not that great. They were better probably when that woman was younger. That's just reality. So don't kill the messenger. It's just the truth. It becomes harder as you get older, for all of us, for me too. So when I say am I looking for a certain age range? I would say I would love to date a girl in her 20s or 30s. And I know that I'll probably get some backlash for that. But I might want to have kids. In addition to the fact that, I heard Tate say something before, and it did resonate with me. He said, men want to be a woman's portal to the world, where you want to be the one to take them to that place for the first time, to that restaurant, to that country, to do that thing with them for the first time because they're like so excited about it. And there's some truth in that. Now, at some point, you get older, and I'm getting older. The chance of you finding somebody to do first things with becomes lower. But someone that's done everything, then the chance of you being able to be the first to do anything with them becomes less and less. So I don't know if that answers your question, but basically, I listen to some of the things that they say, and usually when they tell you what to do in response to the way the world is, or to the way people's behavior is, or the lies that people are being fed, men and women, they're usually the wrong answers, the wrong tactics, the wrong prescriptions. I have to go through a biblical lens, and say, well, for me, and it's so hard because if you went, I've talked about this before. It's like when you see the whole world, getting it in, like it just makes you think, damn, like, for me, when I see there are women out there that have crossed my path that I've looked at and I was physically attracted to, and then they're out sleeping around. One girl I heard recently, I'll share this story. I'm not going to name names, obviously, but it was a girl I ran into at a place, girl I knew from my past. Beautiful girl. She had a kid or two, I think. Still very, very pretty. She's probably about, I don't know, 40 years old. And I was like, maybe, right? Got her number, was texting her, and then a friend of mine was like, "Oh yeah, me and another got some guy I didn't know had a threesome with her." I was like, "Done. I can't do that." I mean, look, everybody's past is everybody's past, but and maybe if it was a long time ago, maybe I don't know, but that would really bother me. That would really bother me, and I could see it causing major problems in the relationship. And people have the right, me and other people have told me that they don't want to date a promiscuous, a man that has been promiscuous in the past. That's their right. They can have that right. It doesn't bother me at all. But I can say to them that I don't want to date a girl that has been getting it in with everybody, especially if it was just recently. I don't, for me it would be hard to stomach. And not to say there's not forgiveness in Christ, because there is, but there's also consequences to sin, and I don't know. There's girls I've talked about in the past. There's a girl like 23 years ago that God told me that was my person, and she was the reason that I was abstinent for the first 6 years, because I waited for this girl, and she's probably slept with who knows how many people in that time. All those years where I was waiting for her, she's out dating and sleeping with other people, and I'm like, like I don't know. I don't know how. Let's say, for example, she's not dead yet. I'm not dead. God did tell me she was the person, and God sees the end from the beginning. Is He orchestrating some kind of a meeting for us before we die, and I'll marry her, kind of like a Abraham and Isaac thing? All those years later, oh, now you're going to do it, God? Maybe, I don't know. But I think to myself, I can't even imagine wanting her at this point because of all that. All of that. Especially, I wasn't out doing it. I wasn't out. It's one thing if I think it would be harder for a man to accept that if he did not make those decisions. So I think like when I say if it was a long time ago, I feel like, what, I was doing it, right? So if a girl was out there and she was doing it, and she's also done the work that I've done on, for a period of time, yeah, maybe, right? But I think if someone hasn't done it, especially if a man hasn't done it, if a man, let's say he waited, he had opportunity, he didn't take it, but the woman, he meets a woman and she did go out and do all that. It would take, for me, it would take a really spiritually mature man to, I think, be okay with that. And I'm sure they're out there, because in all honesty, I have friends that go to Epic Church, and their wives were promiscuous, and they weren't. But also, sometimes what I see in those relationships, and this is just me being honest, is those women kind of wear the pants in those relationships. So they really had more of a dominant personality than that man did, and then it's almost like, not to say they settled, because some of these couples are very happy, but yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what to do with that. Like for whatever reason, when I've seen that happen, it's usually the woman has a much stronger personality than the man. The man that's able to accept that has a weaker personality. He's not the dominant in the relationship. He's not wearing the pants. Usually, she's kind of whipping him around. So there's something there to that. Now, to find again, when I say, oftentimes in the past, when I say to find a strong man, because usually if a woman has a strong personality, she doesn't want a weak man. She might get with a weak man. She might marry a weak man. But really what I believe all women want is they want a strong man. They want a man to be a man. To not, and when I say be a man, I mean be masculine, but also die for that woman. Lead, but also be worthy of following. Not just somebody that's like a tyrant or bossy. When I say lead, I just mean like be the head of the household, so to speak. And I know that might even sound sexist, and I don't mean it to be. But I do think in the Bible, that's the way it was set up, as the man is the priest of the home. But at the same time, you're supposed to love your wives as Christ loved the church. And what did Jesus do? He died for the church. So there's that element. And I think I think that's God's design. So anyway, I could talk probably longer about it, but that's my long answer to a short question. So hopefully that helps, Jared. All right, hold on a second. I got a question. One more question come through. This is going to be a long live, so looks like y'all are staying with me, so we're going to keep talking. All right. Let's see here. Scott the Bot. All right. I've heard people saying that promiscuity for women is disgusting and everything, but I've never heard them talk about promiscuity for men. I assume it's also disgusting, right? Possible book. Sorry, Aiden. Is it disgusting for men? Yes, it is. I've said that before. I think the reason that it's not as disgusting to the general public is because any woman can be promiscuous. Any woman can be promiscuous. Any woman can go out, regardless of how she looks, how old she is, how much money she has, anything. She can go out and have sex with multiple different men for the rest of her life, every single day. She can go out and have sex with multiple men every day for the rest of her life. New men. A man cannot do that. So when a woman is promiscuous, it's like it didn't take much work to be promiscuous. It just took a lack of discernment, really, a lack of discretion, should I say. It didn't really take, for a man to go out and be promiscuous. Yeah, it's disgusting because, think about it. Really, like you're out sticking your dick in all these different women. You don't know where they've been. Fluids, it's kind of gross, really, when you think about it. But it was much harder for that man to be promiscuous than it was that woman. That man had to position himself or maybe make money or look a certain way. Like even if you're a good-looking guy that's at the top of your game, back in the day at least, maybe now it's different because I think the sex is so readily available. But back in the day, you couldn't just go out and have sex with different women all the time. Not even like guys at the top of their game could do that. So I think that's why it's more disgusting, is because like a woman could go out and sell sex if she wanted to. Like, damn, if you want to be a hoe, go make some money off of it at least. Just going out and giving it to everybody and not even making any money makes you look kind of stupid. So I'm sure that's going to get me in trouble one way or another, but that's my answer. All right, cool. Let's get into the division part because we ain't got much time left, and I'm not on topic. So I got a quote here by a guy named Viktor Frankl, and he said, "Everyone has his own specific mission in life. Everyone must carry out a concrete assignment that demands fulfillment. Therein, he cannot be replaced, nor can his life be repeated. Thus, everyone's task is unique as his specific opportunity to implement it." So how does that hit you when I say that? How do you feel? Like, do you feel like you know what your specific task is for being on this earth? A lot of people never even really thought about it. Like people sometimes have very general purposes, like I want to make the world a better place, or I want to be happy, or I want to make a lot of money, but it's not a specific purpose. It's not a unique specific opportunity, as Viktor Frankl says. I love this quote from The Secret. It says, or maybe this was, The Secret. It says, when you know where you're going, the universe conspires to make way for you. So, and I know that that's true because, and is it the universe conspiring to make a way for you? Or is it the fact that when you know where you're going, your mind is able to figure out how to get there? It was able to reverse engineer when you know the specific destination. I think it's both, actually. And I don't think it's the universe. I think it's God. I know that it's God. God opens and closes doors to help you get to your promised land. He'll lead you, the fire by day and the cloud by day and the fire by night. He will lead you to your promised land and along the way develop you so that you're ready to handle it. But in addition to the fact that once you know where you're going, everybody's heard the analogy of, if you buy a Toyota Camry, all of a sudden on the road, that's all you see is Toyota Camrys, because now your brain's picking up, on those. Before you didn't see them. So once you know your vision, once you find out your specific vision, it becomes much easier to figure out how to get there. All right. Napoleon Hill said this quote: "Successful people move on their own initiative, but they know where they're going before they start." All right. So one thing I want to play do I want to play this? Let me see. No, I'm not going to play it. I was going to play a quick video, but wait on that. Okay, so it was a video called Prostitute Archetype, which basically talks about, if you're working a job that is supporting your vision or is helping you get closer to your ideal destination or your dream job, let's say, or your dream purpose, your dream destination, that's okay. I think the problem that most people have is that their job is not a means to an end. Their job is the end. It's like they're just like, they're there to make money and then to live as best they can on the weekends, have a little fun, and then go back to the salt mines every Monday. That's not God's design. Like, I really see so many parallels in the Egyptians. When they left Egypt, they were all slaves. They were brick makers. They were unhappy. God says, look, I want to take you to a promised land, this better place. And when they got to the promised land, think about it. Some of them were bricklayers not bricklayers. Some of them were like blacksmiths, and maybe they took care of cattle or build homes or whatever. But in Egypt, all they could do was be slaves. That was it. And some of them weren't born to be slaves. They had different gifts and talents and passions inside of them, but they weren't able to express those in Egypt because they were prisoners. They were slaves. So that's what God wants to do. If you're working a job that you don't like, you have to jump. And when I say jump, you don't have to quit your job like I did. You can. You're going to get there faster if you do that. But you can get a side hustle and work your ass off after business hours. Work on weekends. Get up early. Work. Use the money. Cut your expenses. Use the money from your job to support your vision. To build your website or whatever the thing is that you need to do, that next step. That's okay. It doesn't have to be like, when I tell you to jump, it doesn't mean you have to like give up everything, give up your income. Now look, you may want to do that, like depending on how big your vision is and how fast you want to get there. That might be the answer, but it doesn't have to be. All right, so where to keep going? So one thing I want to share with you, and this is just a little exercise that can help you get there, is let me touch on that last piece. With the job, make sure the job is something that's helping you get closer, and they don't get you with the golden handcuffs, because that is something that I've seen happen so many times where people are working the job and the pay, they just can't let go of that security, and they end up staying and wasting their whole life. I had a roommate that I lived with years ago. He worked for the government, and he had dreams of leaving and being a musician and traveling around, and he could never get over the fear of leaving his job because he was so well paid. So you got to be careful of that. All right, so here's this exercise I want to share with you. It's called Ikigai. It's spelled I-K-I-G-A-I. Okay, so I want you to ask yourself these 4 questions, and this is going to help you get a little bit closer to what your dream job or your dream destination is, your dream purpose. And its first question is, what do I love? Okay, what do I love doing? Next question, what am I good at? What am I good at? Third question, what can I be paid for now, or something that could transform into my future hustle? And then 4, what does the world need? So imagine if you had 4 circles. What do I love? What am I good at? What can I be paid for? And what does the world need? In the center of those 4 questions, that's your purpose. Okay, that's your unique purpose, your unique opportunity. If you can answer those 4 questions, and this is something that I have people do in my course, is I have them answer those 4 questions, and then using the answers to those questions, I have them develop what's called a vision statement, write a vision statement out. This is what Lori Lockamy did for me all those years ago, and it really is what propelled me forward, because I was like, had such a clear picture of what I wanted to do and what it was going to look like and feel like when I got there, that I couldn't stay in Egypt anymore. So that's really what I recommend for anybody, and it's really not that hard to find. It's just a matter of asking yourself the right questions, or having someone ask you the right questions. Okay, because literally all of you have it inside of you, and when Lori worked with me, I just threw it up. I just came right out of me because she asked me the right questions. So if you're not sure, we can't get into all those questions tonight. I could maybe help you a little bit on a free consultation call. If you wanted to know more about that, but do that Ikigai exercise, and that's going to definitely help you get closer. I want to tell you the story real quick. Okay, there were 2 warring tribes in the Andes, one that lived in the lowlands and the other high in the mountains. The mountain people invaded the lowlanders one day, and as part of their plundering of the people, they kidnapped a baby of one of the lowlander families and took the infant with them back to the mountains. The lowlanders didn't know how to climb the mountain. They didn't know any of the trails that the mountain people used, and they didn't know where to find the mountain people or how to track them in the steep terrain. Even so, they sent out their best party of fighting men to climb the mountain and bring the baby home. The men tried first one method of climbing and then another. They tried one trail and then another. And after several days of effort, however, they had only climbed a couple hundred feet. Feeling hopeless and helpless, the lowlander men decided the cause was lost, and they prepared to return to their village below. As they were packing their gear for the descent, they saw the baby's mother walking toward them. They realized that she was coming down the mountain that they hadn't figured out how to climb, and then they saw that she had the baby strapped to her back. How could that be? One man greeted her and said, "We couldn't climb this mountain. How did you do this when we, the strongest and most able men in the village, couldn't do it?" She shrugged her shoulders and said, "It wasn't your baby." That is the power of a vision. When you know your why, when it's clear, and you have such a compelling, vision, it just pushes you forward. You'll figure out how to do it. You'll figure out, all the ways. Without it, it doesn't generate those juices in you to figure out. Like, look at what, for example, City Family. We're trying to end loneliness. But it was, for me, it was all tied back to that vision statement. What I went through when I first became a Christian, but then back to Lori and helping me put it all together. So that's really what I want all of you to have. Friedrich Nietzsche said, I don't know if I pronounced that right, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." When you have a why, you can bear almost any how. I often say this quote, I don't remember where I heard it, but the person that knows how will always work for the person that knows why. So that's really kind of what a vision statement will do for you. It's going to tell you your personal why and give you a clear picture of what life could be like and will be like when it gets there. One thing I do every morning, still to this day, as I visualize, I think about my vision statement and I close my eyes and I get into a scenario where I'm living that life, where I'm, home is open, or people from other cities are flying in. We got Toby Mack on the podcast or whatever. I'm picturing some scenario when I'm living that vision. And that's really honestly what's kept me going all these years, because there were many times I wanted to quit, many times I wanted to tap out, but I was so clear on the vision. And that's why I think it really might be the most important thing of anything, that if you're serious about doing this, if you're serious about waiting, and really not just waiting, but reaching your full potential, because I think a lot of people out there are waiting just to meet somebody, but they're not using this season for the incredible gift that it is. because for me, I know I'm going to look back at this season and I'm going to be like, man, I'm so glad it's over. But I'm also going to know that I wrung it dry. I for everything it was worth, I got out of it, and that's what I want to do for all of you here. So, all right, I want to read one last thing to you before I see if there's any more questions and get ready to get off. But it says, this is a quote from my vision statement. This was written by Lori Lockamy back in 2000, probably 11 or 12. And it says, you are excited and joyful. Actually, before I read it to you, let me just tell you where I was at. I just rededicated my life to God. I got out of the club scene, broke up with my girlfriend, or she actually broke up with me. We broke up, and I didn't have many friends. The people that I hung out in the bars, I wasn't hanging out with anymore. I was going to church. Knew some people there, but I didn't really have much of a friend group. And this is what she wrote based off of my vision statement, based off the answers to my questions to her. She said, you are excited and joyful when you think of the meaningful relationships that you have with close friends and a wonderful fiance. You are energized about the thoughts of inspiring and supportive friends. They care about you and your well-being. You think of the laughs and the great relaxing times you spend together. You add to each other's lives every time you are with them. And I was like, damn, that sounds like a great group of friends. That's what I want. And honestly, it was from that City Fam was born, because I was like, that's the kind of friend group I want to have. And that really, again, is the power of a vision, because you're able to reverse engineer the things that you want and take steps to get there. So what you need to do is you need to get clear on your vision. You need to write it out. And then you need to read it or listen to it every day. I used to read it. Now I read it into a memo on my phone, and when I drive to work, I listen to it. And that thing is so embedded in my mind, right? That number one, I can't quit, but number two, I'm figuring out how to get there. And then everything kind of just falls into place after that. So, there's other components to it too. It's not just the vision, but that is probably the single most important thing. You have to focus once you figure out what it is. You really have to focus. I think too many people try to do too much and they don't get anything done. They're just too spread out and they're distracted. But when you focus on just a few things, which is something else I help people with through some exercises, then you're able to, work your calendar through time management practices that I teach, and really start to plan out your year, your month, your week, down to your day. Like every day is planned out, all based around the things that you want, and hyper focused on those things. That's how you get there. That's how you perform on a high level. So you're all capable of far more than you realize. And I really just kind of want to help everybody in the group reach their full potential. So, yeah, like I mentioned before, I'm offering some free 15-minute consultation calls. If you think there's something I can help you with, maybe you have a question that you want me to answer and you don't want to ask it in a public setting, go for it. Book a call. I'll be happy to talk to you. If you want to know more about the course, I'll be happy to tell you about that. We have some other things that we're offering, like I hired a relationship coach recently, Gerald Truelove. So maybe you want to get married and you don't have a plan for that. I can tell you, I can at least point you in the right direction of Jarrell. And I also have another coach named Noreen Tan. If you want to talk to a female, just comment the word Noreen, and I'll go back through, Norine, and I'll go back through, or she'll go back through, and we'll send her Calendly link to you as well. So yeah, I mean, if you want a radical like pattern interruption, maybe you've been doing the same thing for a while and it's not working, I would love to talk to you and see if one of these things that I mentioned are right, or maybe I could just answer your question. I will say that if you decided to do the 6-week course, it's not free, but it's very inexpensive. What would it be? It'd be about the same price as if you bought a cup of coffee for 6 weeks every day, about that price. So, in all honesty, it's really good stuff. So, but the calls are free. If you want to book one, I put the link in the copy or the comments. If you can't find the link, just go ahead and comment the word call, CALL, and I'll go back through and I'll know that you want to speak with me, and I'll post the link, or Noreen will post the link for you. So that's it. It's been over an hour. Actually, it hasn't been over an hour. I got started late. Let's see if there's any comments. Recent comments here. Yes, Laura, when your job becomes miserable, it's time to find another job with greater purpose. I mean, yeah, it takes courage to jump. You know, I think about Vicky McKendry. Okay, so Vicky McKendry did my Proverbs 31 course, killed it. She started her own business. She got really clear about her boundaries in dating. She's just doing really good. Now, look, is it easy? No, but is it worth it? Yeah, if you would talk to her, she lost like 50 pounds. She did all these incredible things, changed her whole life. And it's exactly what it did for me 12 years ago when I started working with Lori is I just, I wanted to make a difference in the world and I just didn't have a plan. I wasn't clear about where I was going. I didn't have a plan to get there. And that's really what my course is able to do. Now, um, even when I look at someone like Jarrell, I know that where I want to be. I want to be married, but I don't have a plan, which is why I hired him. So, a plan's a good thing. Failing to plan is a plan to fail, right? And that's what they say. And I believe that. So if you want to talk about any of these things that I mentioned, go ahead and drop a comment or go ahead and book it yourself. Thanks, Ina, for doing that. She just booked my call link. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Decisive men are attracted to an equally yoked woman. Great. Scott said the question isn't what society thinks. That doesn't matter. What's your conviction? What does God think? What was that in reference to, Scott? I don't know which question that was in reference to. All right. Well, that's it for tonight. We're going to keep doing these every Thursday. I think next week I'm going to bring in Jarrell. We're going to talk about some relationship stuff. And tune in. 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time every week. If you got any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I'll try to get to them next week. Anything else? Oh, one thing I want to mention real quick. I made a blog about this. I believe I shared the YouTube link here. And this is, a little bit, this is going to be a change. Somebody sent me a article today about China and Brazil going off the dollar. They're saying that they're going to, not just use the dollar or something. And I'm like, this is bad. Because what I told everyone in that video that I made, that live video, is that 23 years ago, I got baptized in the Holy Spirit, and God told me that we were going into a depression, a global economic collapse. Okay, so that means the money in your wallet's going to become worthless. I never knew what to do with the information, really. But now that I see the writings on the wall. So what I would tell you and anyone else watching this, if you have any money, go out and invest it in some silver and gold right now and just put it somewhere. I don't know when this economic collapse is going to happen. I can't say it's going to happen this year. I think it's going to happen this year based off of what I'm seeing. But I can't say that for sure. But what I do know is if you buy it and you hold it, you will not lose. Start a food pantry. Start working on your community. Make sure you have some people that you can connect with and rely on if the shit hits the fan, when the shit hits the fan. Faith communities are great for that. But I would be preparing now and ultimately, get close to God, because it will be the safest place to be when all this happens. I 100% believe the rapture is imminent. I don't know when. If I had to bet, in the next 10 years, maybe shorter, maybe 5. I don't know. Maybe this year. We don't know when, right? But it's close. Jesus is coming back in our lifetime. I'm convinced. So start making decisions based off of those things. All right. Love you guys. Talk to you later.